Bought a house in Brevard, right?
We found a house. It was very affordable, and it was in a really nice neighborhood in Brevard. But the rub was it hadn't sold for 2 years, and so
It had been on the market this whole time.
yeah, which is very unusual in Western North Carolina to have a house that hasn't sold for that long. But what ended up being was that the owner of the house had been importing people from Atlanta from Vietnam. And so they were living in the house at the time to pay off debts to basically work in the nail salon to pay for the whole trip to get to the United States.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. This is Rodrigo Fonador, and doing something a little bit new today. We're actually having a story time, meeting with one of our guests today, and had a crazy experience about buying a house here, and just wanted to tap into this. First time I heard the story, I was like, we had to get him on the show. So really excited about that. Make sure you let us know what you think. If you have any questions or any comments about this experience, or if you have an experience similar to this, let us know so we can kind of get you on the show as well. So, well, without any further ado, Tim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely, and that's been a couple months in the works, right?
Yeah, we keep trying. Finally made it work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks so much again, and well, you're here.
Yep. It's true.
And it's finally getting to talk about this. And bought a house in Brevard, right?
That's right.
And there's some kind of crazy variables about that.
Yeah. My wife and I, we lived around the Asheville area for about 8 years, renting all the different neighborhoods. Montford, South Asheville, Beverly Hills.
Oh,
we really like that neighborhood.
That was one of my favorites where I lived too.
Yeah, you know why? I mean, you tell people you live in Beverly Hills, and it sounds really fancy. So we did that for a long time. We moved out of state for a year, moved back, lived in South Asheville between two major roads, and it wasn't very fun.
Were you in between Sweeton Creek and...
That's it, and Hendersonville Highway. Yeah, it was terrible. Lived next to a factory, and it was always on and just buzzy. Zzz, and then it shut down during Christmas time for a week, and it was really nice.
That's the best time ever.
Yeah, and then they turned on the factory again. That sucked. Anyway, so we found a place in Brevard. Our price range...
Well, how'd you find it?
We looked online for a lot of different places, but truth be told, we couldn't afford much. I'm a businessman, started up a business right around that time, and it's impossible to go to a bank and say, hey, give me a loan if you have money coming in from a company that's less than a couple of years old. Yeah. And that's how it was. We were profitable, but it's just kind of like a fine line of BS. And
so people are like, I don't know how true that's going to be 5 years down the road or whatever.
Yeah, and I learned that most banks, almost all of them, they collect your information from a bunch of different forms, and they put it to the same window or same machine, turn the crank, and it's always no if you're starting a business. So that's the pickle that we're in. We found a house. It was very affordable, and it was in a really nice neighborhood in Brevard. And so we drove by it a couple times. It didn't look very, very good. I mean, it looked like someone
like a little bit of TLC.
Need a lot of love for sure, but the rub was it hadn't sold for 2 years, and so
it had been on the market this whole time.
Yeah, which is very unusual in Western North Carolina to have a house that hasn't sold for that long.
Yeah.
So we didn't have our own buying realtor. Instead, we went with the seller's realtor because he's a really honest, sharp guy, an old dude. So we didn't realize we realized at the moment back then that the old guy was so honest. He viewed realty as sort of fitting. It's like a puzzle game to him. How do you fit all the pieces together? How do you get families in the right houses? And he told us, this place has got really good bones. You'll like it. And we believed him because he's an upstanding dude. Anyhow, so we finally got a tour of the inside. And it turns out that the previous owner ran one of 2 nail salons in Brevard. And nail salons, I don't know how they're competitive in Brevard especially. It seems like if you have one, it's kind of saturated. Yeah. I don't know what people do there. I should probably go. I mean, I'm a wreck if you look at my fingertips and stuff. So anyway, so there was 2 of them. But what ended up being was that the owner of the house had been importing people from Atlanta from Vietnam, and so they were living in the house at the time to pay off debts to basically work in the nail salon to pay for the whole trip to get to the United States.
So you're going through this house, and you make this realization that was happening, or how did that information come to light?
Right. Well, it was piecemeal. So we walk into the house, and it had beat up floors. The kitchen had been redone. in a really poor way. It was it was built in 1967, so it had sort of the lime green, creamy colored tile motif type of stuff
everywhere.
4 layers of linoleum in the kitchen.
Wow.
And instead of actually fixing up the kitchen, it was granite counters, but it was sort of like black and red and gold flecked. It was really just weird.
Yeah.
So it turned off a lot of people. But the real kicker was going into the basement. The basement itself had been converted into 4 different rooms with locks on the outside. The rooms are very tiny, and so basically people would go looking at it and say, "Holy crap, we can't live
What's
here.
going on? We're done."
There's cells in the basement." So it was kind of a weird thing because the neighbors all came by and they all said, like, "Oh, you guys bought the place. What are you gonna do with like the
what
cells?"
was the conversation between you and your wife about that?
Well, we'd been renting for so long that we realized, okay, let's see beyond this. What if we spent a month ripping all this stuff out and
Can you get comfortable with it?
well, yeah. I mean, we went to Tractor Supply and bought like a 50-pound hay bale of sage to do the whole smudgy thing. So you light it on fire, let it burn for like a weekend or whatever. I don't know. Try to purify it. That seemed to work. But it was now when I go through the airport and I see the signs about human trafficking, I realize, wow, that's really close to home. That was happening right where I lived.
And how long ago was that? You guys bought the house.
We've been there for 3 years now. Yeah,
so it's still kind of semi-recent then.
Yes. What else? So if you're looking for a bargain in terms of real estate, look for the houses that have been painted bright red with turquoise highlights.
Turquoise?
Yeah. And also if there's little gold statues on concrete fixtures all throughout the yard, that's a big thing you should look for too. You just said
in your experience?
Yeah.
Wow.
And also the house we bought, the flower beds were once flower beds all the way around the house, but instead they were paved over. So it's like a sidewalk went all the way around the house.
Just all the way around the house.
Yeah. Because I don't know, concrete's a really nice thing.
So, were there any other pieces that you kind of put together as far as like what was going on, and did the agent not know?
Agent knew, and he
didn't ever like disclose, or he did, or
no, he did. I mean, part of the walkthrough, he basically said, we saw the basement part, and we thought this is really unusual, especially the locks, how they go the wrong way, and
you said they were on the outside, right?
They're on the outside, so when you go to bed at night, someone locks you in.
Yeah,
which is very, very unusual in the United States. In most places, I think it's probably pretty unusual. So the realtor was really, really, he understood what was happening. He knew that the place hadn't been sold for 2 years. So he basically helped us out. He said, look, if you offer X amount, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a taker because everyone looks at the place and says, this is crazy. Away. Yeah. So we spent a year with the giant dumpster out front and just ripped it all. I'm sorry, we spent a month and ripped it all out, filled up an entire, massive truck dumpster. That was pretty great. Just to
did all the work
basement.
Yourselves?
Just to make it, friendly for people, or rather not, not people working off their nail salon debts or anything like that. So it was good. So we found our bargain. It's really nice. The neighborhood's actually pretty good. Do
the neighbors absolutely love you now?
They do. Well, they did. But now we have 2 crazy dogs and they scare the neighborhood, so that kind of sucks. But the police chief lives right above us. It's kind of a giant bowl that we live in.
Did the police chief live above them before you bought the house, or when did the police chief move in? Now that
he moved in a couple months before we did, so we didn't really know what was happening.
Okay.
But Brevard's got a really weird tale. The previous police chief was very corrupt, and so they brought in a new guy to clean it up. But everything that illegal happens at my house has to be in the front yard because he lives above us, so he can see right in the backyard. It's really awkward. But we're doing it. We're making
everything stays on the up and up then, huh?
Yeah, on that part of the house.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something. I guess how long? What was the decision making process like to decide that?
Let's see here.
That it was worth moving forward. That the upside of the price was worth like the story and the funkiness.
Well, it was, sweetie, do you want to keep renting next to this factory that's causing our molars to like vibrate loose? So that seemed like a big signal to say we should probably move. The other one was trying to find a mortgage lender that would actually look at us and say, hey, here's where you're at. It's actually pretty good. Business.
You figured that one out then?
We went through a local credit union because they have control of their own funds and they're not just going to fill out a form and go to the federal loan program and like turn the crank, whatever. So that worked out. And then the business I'm in is so weird that the loan officer herself actually went through everything and figured it out. She brought her own IT team because I'm in technology. Right. She brought her own IT team together. They couldn't figure out, but the loan officer did. She said, "Oh, you guys are a sure thing. This is great. Of course, we'll give you a mortgage for this really super affordable house in a nice neighborhood. It just happened to be real beat up." Looking at it now, absolutely the right thing to do. Although we probably should have burned it down for the insurance money long ago so we can rebuild it. But I don't think people really do that in real life.
No, yeah, I'd say that everybody would probably recommend you not to
write
it down on purpose.
Oh, you're supposed to wait like 4 years or something, right? I figure what the cutoff is. Any words of advice for your listeners there if you're going to perform insurance enhancements?
Yeah, the advice would be not to do it.
Excellent.
That's sketchy territory to wade into.
Right.
Man, that is absolutely a crazy story. Going, so you did all the work yourself, and a lot of the work you said the house needed. Just going back to the normal like home buying process.
Yeah.
Did you guys move into the house right away, or how long?
We did.
You did.
We didn't have the luxury of living anywhere else, so we had no place we could go to and just say like,
do you have
hey,
kids?
2 kids. I have 2 young daughters, so we couldn't stay in our place next to the factory because it was just a violent place to be. Not in terms of crime, but just it was not very good. And we don't come from wealth or anything like that, so we couldn't just squat in a parent's place, right?
So it was like one or the other.
And when I say fix up, we haven't fixed up our place too much. It's more about demolition. So we ripped out a bunch of stuff. We want a wider kitchen, open up some walls. We just tear the walls out.
The normal things, right?
We're working on the next phase, which is trying to figure out how to pay for a real renovation.
Gotcha. Well, that's an exciting phase to be in, though.
I suppose.
Yeah. So going back,
yeah.
I guess, the story is obviously a little bit of a crazy one. I'm sure.
Yeah.
When you share that with people, what are people's typical response?
Human trafficking in Brevard? That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, can it be? I suppose. Yeah. I mean, we live there. That's no good. But again, through the airports, when I see them in Atlanta and flying out of the country, I kind of get it now. I don't actually know where to go to get traffic. In terms of humans,
yeah,
it just never occurs to me to just buy people off the street or something. I don't know how that whole world works, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, because of the advertisements and stuff, it's an issue.
Yeah,
you're living proof of the fact that it's.
I've only seen the aftermath, but I don't know what it's like in Asheville, or the rest of Western North Carolina. Right. Do you run across that sometimes? Do people come to you and sell you giant cages or something?
No, that was one of the reasons I was super intrigued by when you first shared your story, because it was something that, again, I would have just never anticipated. I know Atlanta's that's a major hotbed for it, right? Yeah. And so it's not, I guess, we're close enough to Atlanta that I can see that, the ripple side of it. But no, I've never run across it. I've never heard of it. It's the furthest thing away from anything that I would consider normal, or I would have never been able to anticipate.
I'm trying to
even hearing that story.
I'm trying to think of pro tips for people looking to follow in my footsteps for how I found the place. But if there's a lot of white lava rock or just lava rock and pavers that are bright red, that's normally a good tip off that you should look a little closer. You might get a deal,
Yeah, I know. That's a crazy one. Well, what about just the general buying process? Is there anything that you'd say, was that your first home that you guys bought?
Yes. Actually second, but we qualified for first-time homeowner because it had been so long since our prior purchase.
So any tips as far as that? No. Would you do anything differently?
It was very difficult for us because of the whole new business thing. If you want to buy a house, it's best if you have perfect credit, you have a lot of money in the bank, and you've worked at the same place for forever, right?
For especially a super stable company.
Yep. Then you'll have no problems whatsoever. People will throw money at you. Otherwise, be prepared to shop around a whole bunch.
Yeah. So that's what you guys did. You just went to banks everywhere and credit unions and.
Yep. Found a few really sharp people that kind of walked us through the process, and we realized, okay, it's all the same sort of formula that you have to fill out. Mm-hmm. However, credit unions are different, and this is what I learned: is that you can go to a credit union in the area. And if they're small enough, they do their own funding. So instead of going to a federal window somewhere with the application and filling out, they'll go through and sit down and between themselves they'll decide, do we actually want to take this on or not? So for us, the local credit union really helped us out.
As you said, they came out and looked at your company and everything, and the IT department was like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, they asked about everything. Yeah, no, though that's the thing. The IT department itself didn't understand it, but the loan officer took the time to go through it all. Yeah, and she was great. And sometimes you see her face on a billboard, Nikki from Champion Credit Union.
Okay. Good little plug then, yeah.
That's right.
Obviously you had a great experience.
Thank you,
Nikki. So. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming and sharing. That's obviously a story I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued. I had no idea. And just it's good. It's a good listen and just.
WNC is a beautiful place.
It is.
But it has a seedy underbelly. Human trafficking.
Well, I lived out for a while before I got into the real estate thing. I lived out as a raft guide out on the Nantahala.
So you've seen it all.
I mean, no, because I had never seen that, but it exposed me to a different part of of Western North Carolina that
I thought that you'd see all the crazy stuff that happens in the mountains.
It blew my mind in that moment, like as far as what was going on. It's definitely like city boy coming to the mountains of like Appalachia and whatnot.
You don't have to go very far to get out of the city around here.
No, not at all. So one of the reasons I love Asheville, but yeah. So, well, thanks so much for coming and sharing, and
thanks for having me.
If you have another good story, maybe on how your renovation tip goes, we'll have you on. And
that's such a pain in the butt.
That one
we could have a 3-part series about how much of a slog that is.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to find. Well, at least where I live in Brevard, it's for the viewers out there, it's 30-40 minutes south of Asheville.
Right.
It's far enough away where people don't want to live there and work in Asheville.
Yeah.
It seems like it's just too far out of the way, which is brilliant. However, there's a lot of people moving up, moving from Atlanta and D.C. into Asheville, where they drive for, I don't know,
an hour plus or whatever.
Each way, yeah. So when I talk to them about Brevard, they say, there's no way I want to drive that far. It makes no sense to me. I don't know, because they're kind of doing that now. But anyway, Brevard's a terrible place. You should stay away from it. I really dig it, but that's because I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, fair enough, man.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks so much for joining us on the show and sharing everything, man.
I'll tell you more later if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
Part 2, Tim's renovation.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right.
Cool. Well, you guys, if you found this story interesting, please share it with somebody who you think would also enjoy it. And don't forget to subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Instagram, Google Play, and anywhere else on social media where you hang out. Thank you. Take care.